Suha Atiyeh is a marketing strategist and executive based in Birmingham, Alabama. She is known for blending data-driven planning with empathy-led messaging across full-funnel marketing work. In Birmingham, Alabama, marketing can feel like two jobs at once. One job is technical. It lives in dashboards, conversion paths, channel mix, and performance reporting. The other job is human. It lives in the moment. A customer decides a brand feels familiar, or distant, or worth a second chance. Suha Atiyeh has built her work at the intersection of those two jobs. She is a marketing strategist and executive whose background includes brand strategy, performance marketing, and multi-channel content creation. Her work is described as grounded in market research, competitive analysis, and integrated communications, with a focus on digital transformation. Over more than a decade in the field, she has been associated with marketing work across areas that include SaaS, fintech, healthcare, retail, logistics, manufacturing, consumer goods, and B2B technology. There is a consistent thread running through the way her profile is described. Data matters, but it is not the center of the story. Understanding is. Atiyeh's base matters because it shapes the kind of marketing problems that show up on her desk. Birmingham is home to established companies, growing businesses, and people building careers without the assumption that the only serious work happens elsewhere. In that kind of environment, marketing often has to do more than attract attention. It has to earn trust. It has to explain value clearly. It has to bridge worlds. Her public-facing work positions empathy as a practical tool, not a soft extra. The emphasis is on active listening and community building, especially as digital systems push teams towards speed and automation. In this framing, a strategy starts with the person on the other side of the screen, not the platform rules that decide what gets seen. That human-first stance also shows up in what she does outside the core work of campaigns and planning. She mentors aspiring marketers at Innovation Depot. She serves on the board of a local arts nonprofit. She has held a leadership position within the Birmingham chapter of the American Marketing Association, with involvement in professional development. She has also been described as giving back to the academic community as a guest lecturer at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Taken together, those details sketch a pattern: marketing as a craft tied to a place and to people who are learning, building, and trying again. In many teams, empathy is treated like a tone choice. Add warmer copy, use friendlier images, pick a more personal email template. Atiyeh's materials frame it differently. Empathy shows up as a method of making decisions. It helps interpret what data can and cannot say. It keeps the work from turning into a chase for clicks that do not lead anywhere meaningful. This approach shows up in how her work is described as a blend of analytical discipline and human-centered narrative. She is repeatedly positioned as someone who connects creativity and accountability, and who treats marketing as both precise and purposeful. The language around her work suggests a belief that marketing works best when it connects performance goals with messages that feel relevant to real lives. It is a stance that pushes back on the idea that more tracking automatically means better understanding. In that framing, the most important question is not only what performed well, but what it taught the team about the people they are trying to reach. Some marketing strategies are built for the first moment only, the first click, the first form fill, the first purchase. Atiyeh's work is described as full funnel, with attention to systems that sustain growth and strengthen customer relationships. That is a different kind of mindset. It treats marketing as something that continues after the sale, not something that hands a customer off and moves on. This kind of approach tends to require more coordination. Market research has to connect to positioning. Positioning has to connect to content. Content has to connect to performance work. Performance work has to connect back to what the product and customer experience actually deliver. The materials tied to Atiyeh describe the aim as building ecosystems of trust, loyalty, and long-term growth. In plain terms, it is the difference between getting someone's attention and keeping their confidence. Full funnel work also creates a different pressure for honesty. If a message promises one thing and the experience delivers another, the disconnect shows up quickly. It can show up as churn, negative feedback, or a slow drop in engagement, that is hard to fix with a new ad budget. A long view strategy forces the team to face those gaps because the goal is not a spike. The goal is a stable relationship. The information shared about Atiyeh does not list a full timeline of roles, employers, or dates. What it does show is the shape of a career described as non-linear, with work across multiple industries and marketing disciplines. Her background is described using words like strategy, research, positioning, performance, and multi-channel execution. It also repeatedly points to digital transformation, which often implies a certain type of challenge. Companies in transition have to change how they tell their story while also changing how they operate. They often need to modernize their tools, their measurement, and their customer communication at the same time. In that environment, a strategist's job can turn into translation between leadership goals and customer expectations, between brand identity and what a website or a product experience actually signals, between what data suggests and what people say when asked directly. Atiyeh's profile also includes mentions of measurable outcomes, such as double-digit growth in engagement and market share, and an increase in operational capacity by over 40% in prior leadership roles. The details behind those figures are not included here, and they do not need to be. Their presence signals the kind of work she is associated with, tying marketing activity to business results while still keeping the human element in view. A notable part of Atiyeh's profile is the amount of attention given to mentorship and professional development. Mentoring at Innovation Depot suggests contact with early-stage teams and early career professionals, where marketing is often a mix of improvisation and learning. Serving in leadership within the American Marketing Association's Birmingham chapter suggests involvement with training, network building, and the ongoing work of sharpening the craft. Her role as a guest lecturer at UAB points to another pattern: keeping one foot in the classroom, or at least in learning spaces where marketing is discussed as a discipline, not only as a set of tactics. This matters because marketing changes quickly, but the basic problems repeat. How to understand an audience without flattening them into a persona. How to build trust without promising what cannot be delivered. How to measure success without letting the numbers choose the story for you. Leaders who teach tend to be forced into clarity. They have to explain what they do, not just do it. They have to separate signal from noise. If a method cannot be explained to someone new, it often cannot be repeated reliably by a team. In a field that can reward shortcuts, the emphasis on teaching and mentoring reads as a choice, to build capability in others, not just deliver outcomes in isolation. Across the bios and PR drafts shared, Atiyeh is presented with a consistent organizing idea. Marketing works best when it is rooted in understanding people. That thread ties together the data emphasis and the empathy emphasis. It ties together full funnel strategy and community involvement. It ties together professional leadership and creative work. It also hints at a certain restraint. When marketing is treated as a loudspeaker, it can become loud quickly. When it is treated as translation, it tends to become more careful, more specific, less interested in novelty for its own sake. In this portrait, the goal is not to be everywhere. The goal is to be clear and to build something that lasts. Marketing is in a moment where it can easily drift toward extremes. On one side is pure automation, where speed is the main advantage and human nuance gets lost. On the other side is pure storytelling, where the message is polished but untested, and results are hard to prove. The approach associated with Atiyeh matters because it refuses that split. It treats empathy and measurement as partners. It treats marketing as a long-term system, not a one-time push. It places listening at the start of the work, not as a cleanup step after something fails. For readers, the takeaway is practical. Use data, but do not let it replace understanding. Build for the whole customer journey, not just the first step. Keep your work connected to real people and real communities, especially when the tools make it easy to forget them.